Hey YouTube, this is Gregory Nelson. Welcome to What Did I Just Watch? Episode 7. In this YouTube series, I introduce my favorite people to my favorite moments in professional wrestling. We cover moments that go to the absolute limit and discuss how they create drama, tell a story, and keep those viewers wanting more. Before we get into today's interview, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and if you really want to show your dedication, you'll click that bell icon so you never miss an episode. Today is a very special episode. I've decided that every 7 episodes of this, I'm going to have a real wrestling fan on the show. My guest today is one of my best friends, Holly Bonarrigo. We were roommates in college, we worked on stage productions, we partied, but above all else, we watched professional wrestling. I'm going to give Holly 60 seconds to cut a little promo and tell you a little bit about herself. Holly, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly. I was roommates with Greg when I was in college, and actually Greg was the person that introduced me to wrestling. So he has taught me an extensive knowledge about wrestling. We've watched so many pay-per-views, and we've been to many, many live shows together. So I'm excited to talk to you guys today about wrestling.
Now, you mentioned it in your little promo there. Before we even get into today's matches, Holly and we're going to get into a few stories about live shows we've been to. I'd say pretty much every pay-per-view we have attended together has been at Boston's TD Garden. Holly and I are both natives of Boston, and we always wound up finding our way to every WWE show. Now, I put these shows that we've attended in order based on what I can remember, and it's also based on how awesome I remember the shows being. Let's start off with the 900th episode of Monday Night Raw. I don't really remember much about that episode. I remember John Cena being in the main event. I remember CM Punk playing some of Stone Cold's music and teasing us and pretending that he was there.
And didn't he have like a Stone Cold shirt on too? I feel like I remember something like that.
No, the Stone Cold shirt you might remember him wearing is from his famous Money in the Bank promo. So yeah, sadly, we don't have too many memories of Raw 900, and that is why it made the bottom of the list. The next one on our list, it was March of 2011 or 12, and the biggest moment of the night that got the Boston fans popping was a United States title win by Santino Marella.
That was crazy. The whole stadium was electric. I remember the moment that happened and just going insane. Santino Marella was a character. He didn't win much, and the fact that night he won was electrifying.
I feel like at that time, Boston was always notorious for having some sort of title change whenever they came through the area. And like Santino was the United States title at the time was the only one they were able to make change hands at the time.
And that was also during the time in wrestling when John Laurinaitis was in his heel general manager position. And I know I hated him. So the fact that Teddy Long kicked him out after Santino won was just perfect. I was so excited.
The next one on our list is Night of Champions 2012. Holly, do you remember the main event of this show?
John Cena and CM Punk.
John Cena versus CM Punk. I feel like I was the only fan there who knew CM Punk was going to leave with the championship because it ended in a draw. John Cena hit a German suplex off the second rope, and both men's shoulders were counted. And when that announcer told the crowd that CM Punk was still your WWE champion, I smiled ear to ear at the disgusted Boston crowd booing the crap out of CM Punk.
And I was the disgusted Boston crowd booing the heck out of CM Punk. Because I have always been a huge John Cena fan. He is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and I've always rooted for him. I do like CM Punk too, don't get me wrong, but John Cena is my man, and I was not happy.
Next on our list, TLC 2015. There's really only one moment from that night that stands out. Do you remember what it is?
I don't.
I ran into a young baby-faced Sam Roberts out in the hallway. But in all seriousness, Kalisto gave a Selena Del Sol off a ladder through another ladder.
Yes.
And the entire crowd went insane. Sadly, the main event of that show was Roman Reigns versus Sheamus for the championship, which nobody had interest in.
Well, I like Roman Reigns. I know at the time, everybody was just done with him. They all thought he was just the corporate guy. But I enjoyed him. I enjoyed his wrestling. I thought he was another John Cena type, but the fans rejected that at the time. But I liked it. I just remember that was the first tables, ladders, and chairs pay-per-view that I had seen live. So to just experience that in person was something that, you can't describe unless you actually see it. Because you see it on TV, but it's completely different when you're in person.
Next on our list, Money in the Bank 2014. This show was so good. Like, I remember most of the matches on this card, and considering the amount of alcohol I drink when we go to live shows, I'm surprised I remember this much.
Money in the Bank is always one of my favorite pay-per-views. I love the idea that they're all competing for the briefcase.
Well, that night, not only did we get the Money in the Bank ladder match for the briefcase, we got an additional Money in the Bank ladder match for the World Heavyweight Championship. The one that Daniel Bryan had to forfeit.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that.
And finally, the Monday Night Raw episode from October 5th, 2015. This is more of my favorite moment in the live show history more than yours. I wound up getting extremely intoxicated. I let a friend paint my face like the Ultimate Warrior, and I brought a sign with me that said Brocktober with Brock Lesnar's face carved into a pumpkin on it, and all of the cameramen were pointing at me, telling me they wanted me on TV. Not only did I make the short reel during the final commercial break of NCIS, but I also made about 10 seconds on air during Monday Night Raw that night.
Well, and you were also wearing a bright green, I think, was it like an ugly sweater?
It was an ultimate...
Green with the orange sign made you stand out. And we also had great seats that was behind the camera. So they could see you during promos, during a lot of the programming.
Yeah, we were directly across from the hard cam. Definitely our favorite place to sit, we learned.
Yeah, for sure.
2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 rows up in the loge seating is the place to watch wrestling. It's unbearable watching it on the floor unless you're in the first 2 rows.
I agree.
I also learned that sitting that close can kind of take a little bit of the realism away from it. But
yeah, I think that was my first live event that we went to, that Raw 900, where we were on the floor, and I'm short. So it was very hard to see. People were standing. So it kind of took away from the show and the excitement, because I'm like, I can't see anything. And you can't stand on your chair either. So
I'm sorry, you can't see anything?
Nope.
Since today is a special episode, Holly and I will be getting into not 1, but 2 matches. When I first introduced Holly to wrestling, she thought the Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero custody of Dominic ladder match was the funniest concept for a wrestling match she has ever heard.
So when you introduced me to this match, it was when I was very green at knowing anything about wrestling and behind the scenes. So I couldn't fathom that there was a story about the custody of a child and that they were going to solve it with a wrestling match. I was like, I need to see this match. I need to watch this. I need everything because I don't know who's going to win. And it actually felt for me like it was like a life or death situation, which is why I think this match is one of the greatest matches too, because there was something at stake.
Yeah, and also you hear time and time again that wrestling is very similar to soap operas. I mean, you can't get any closer to a soap opera in a situation where there's custody of a child on the line.
Plus the fact that it's Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, like two amazing technical wrestlers and also two great, amazing storytellers. So watching this match was a story, and the psychology of this match was fantastic.
So before we even start the match, let's get into the video package. 1 month prior to this match, Eddie and Rey faced off in a match at the Great American Bash. Eddie had a family secret. If Rey won this match, Eddie would hold on to that secret forever. Rey wound up winning the match, and since Eddie Guerrero is Eddie Guerrero, he lied and told the secret anyway. The secret being, Dominic, Rey is not your father. I am. Eddie then introduces official custody papers as such a symbolic prop into this storyline. And we learn that Rey and Eddie will face off in a ladder match for the custody of Dominic. Now, Holly, let's get into who the commentators for this match are.
Taz and Michael Cole. I'm a huge fan of Taz as a wrestler and as a commentator and as a podcast host because I listen to his podcast.
As far as commentary goes, Michael Cole and Taz are by far my favorite commentary team because they feed off each other so well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Michael Cole actually helped Taz a lot to learn commentating skills. And so I think that's also why they have such great chemistry together, is because Taz learned a lot from Michael Cole.
Let's not forget that injuries forced Taz into these commentary roles.
I actually jotted down some of the quotes that Taz said throughout this match that I just thought was great.
I love it. As the competitors come out to the ring, each one of them makes their way past Dominic, who's just sitting to the right of the commentary tables. And we see these camera cuts to Dominic throughout the match with looks of concern on his face. And once this match starts, we see two things. We see a fantastic ladder match, but then we also see like some of the finest storytelling with other members of this family getting involved. And it's just so well executed. I can't even. The first part of this match, we see the two brawl back and forth, and it doesn't take long for one of them to introduce a ladder. We see a drop kick into a ladder to the outside, and then we see Rey hit a seated senton outside the ring. This match goes from 0 to 60 like that. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the back and forth. It was not one person dominating another. It was Rey getting in some spots and Eddie getting in some spots. So you really didn't know who was going to win this match because they were each going after each other. And that's one thing that I love about this match too, is that you really didn't know who was going to win. It's a great storytelling point where both guys are fighting for each other and it's not a dominant match.
You can really tell how personal it is.
And I also want to bring up too that there is another layer of this match too, because Eddie Guerrero never beat Rey Mysterio in his career at this point. So not only is this just the custody of Dominic, this is Eddie Guerrero wanting to prove to everybody that I can beat Rey Mysterio. And actually there was a video package before between Eddie and Vicky Guerrero. And at the end of that, Eddie is saying to himself, I will beat Rey Mysterio. I will beat him. So adding that layer onto it too was just another element of great storytelling.
Next, both men try to climb the ladder, and Eddie goes for a sunset flip powerbomb off the top, and he completely botches it.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so sad because there's this great no DQ match between Eddie Guerrero and Edge from a random episode of SmackDown, and Eddie hits that move like butter in that match.
Yeah, I noticed that too, that it was a total botch, but Rey Mysterio tried to recover from it and made it seem like he was really hurt. But you know what? They just picked it up and moved along, which is a great element of wrestling.
That's what you got to do. You know, in theater, the show must go on. You just got to keep going. And honestly, most of the matches I've covered on this season of the show has a moment where something goes wrong.
But that's wrestling. That's show business.
That is wrestling. The next great spot in this match is when Eddie gets Rey sandwiched between two ladders. He winds up doing a rolling senton over the top rope and hitting both ladders with Rey in between.
Can I also just say that when that happened, Taz made a fantastic comment where he said, I think that crushed Dominic just as much. And I just thought that was a wonderful little exclamation point onto that spot.
Oh, absolutely. Eddie tries climbing for the briefcase, and Rey leans one ladder up against Eddie's ladder, climbs up it, and gives him a back body drop off the ladder. And again, everything just falls over. This is the second time both men have wound up on top of a ladder, going for a big spot, and they botch it.
I actually didn't recognize that was a botch. I enjoyed the fact that he had put that ladder kind of like perpendicular and like climbed all the way up it to get Eddie. And honestly, it looked natural to me.
After that, the two continue to fight back and forth. Eddie throws Rey into the ladder set up in the corner and once again attempts to grab the briefcase. But this time, it's not Rey who tries to stop him, it's Dominic.
Dominic to the rescue!
Eddie climbs down, he gives him one of these, and tells Dominic he will learn the hard way what it's like to be a Guerrero. Eddie then winds up to slap Dominic, but his blow is intercepted by Rey, which results in Rey hitting a ton of offense, a 619, and then a leg drop with a ladder on top of Eddie.
Now, when Eddie Guerrero went to go attack Dominic, I remember the first time watching that, and I'm literally like, can they show this on TV? Like, he's about to hit a child. What is going on? I couldn't believe it. And I remember feeling that emotion, feeling that protection of Dominic, like, where are you, Rey? Come rescue him. And then he does.
To our viewers watching at home, when I first introduced Holly to wrestling, she was not 100% aware how staged it was, let alone staged at all. And I assure you, her reaction when she found out it was staged was absolute gold. I'm pretty sure you were very upset at that point and also very confused.
I was extremely mad. I could not believe that outcomes were predetermined. I was in shock. And I think it took me a good 2 to 3 months to actually cope and accept the fact that wrestling was predetermined and staged, and I was not happy.
After that point, you had to just keep reminding yourself during storylines on TV that it was not real.
But also, it made a lot of sense to me after I found that out because of the situation with Dominic and Eddie, where Eddie was going to hit him. Like, now I understand better that, okay, that was planned, but it also added to the story. And if you didn't know that it was planned, it didn't look like it. And that's the beauty of wrestling.
It's okay, Holly. When I first found out wrestling was staged, it was when the big boss man fed Al Snow his pet dog. I just turned my head and thought, there is no way this is real. Back to our match. So for the third time in the match, both men find their way up to the top of the ladder, fighting over the briefcase. And Ray hits this beautiful sunset flip powerbomb. And it just made this match so much easier to watch, knowing that they're at least hitting some of the moves off the top rope.
And I feel like they knew they had to make up for the botched spots previously and give the fans what they wanted.
With Eddie grounded, Ray starts to climb the ladder, and Eddie winds up kicking the bottom of the ladder out of the way, leaving Ray hanging from the briefcase. And he eventually falls right into Eddie's arms, and Eddie hits a powerbomb of his own. It's such a nice back and forth, like seeing those two spots back to back.
Absolutely. And I loved they also showed the camera angle from above the briefcase of Rey Mysterio dangling while holding it. I just thought that was a great touch.
That replay cam has really made ladder matches over the years. It's great.
Absolutely.
Now with Ray grounded, Eddie sets up the ladder on top of Ray, pinning him to the ground. But it's now Ray's turn to move the ladder out of the way, leaving Eddie hanging from the briefcase. Ray winds up grabbing Eddie's foot and just pulls him to the ground. Something about this did not land right.
I was more focused on the fact that it was the back and forth. It was, we just saw Rey Mysterio hanging from the briefcase and Eddie taking him down. And then now we see Eddie hanging from the briefcase and Ray taking him down. It was a great juxtaposition.
Next, we see Eddie hit his famous triple suplexes, aka the Three Amigos. He hits one suplex, he hits two suplexes, but the third suplex, he hits square on a ladder.
Perfect.
Eddie begins to climb the ladder again, and then his wife comes down to the ring, and in my opinion, she does the coolest thing she has ever done in her career. She comes out, she bargains with Eddie, telling him to stop. When he refuses, she just shoves the ladder over, sending Eddie into the ring ropes.
What a great moment. What a great storytelling moment. It, again, reiterates that this is not just a match between two guys, that this is a family matter, this is personal, and to have Eddie's wife come in and go against him, just perfect.
And the fact that it wasn't Ray's wife, the fact that it was Eddie's wife, added so much to it. Ray then takes the opportunity to climb the ladder and grab the briefcase as Vicky holds her husband down. The bell rings. Dominic gets in the ring and celebrates with his dad. After the match, Eddie is throwing a fit. Ray is celebrating with his family in the entranceway. And just for one final fuck you, Ray gets back in the ring and just smacks Eddie across the face with the briefcase. It is so poetic. I love it.
And you said it perfectly. It's poetic. Poetic justice and the wonderful period to the storyline.
That really wraps it up for this match. Fast forward to 2020. Rey Mysterio has been in and out of WWE. Since then, we've seen him on the independent circuit. We've seen him in AAA, and he even participated in the main event of All In, which is the pay-per-view that essentially launched All Elite Wrestling. In 2020, we see Rey Mysterio back in WWE, feuding with Seth Rollins and Dominic, all grown up, now wrestling for WWE. Now, in the match we just discussed, we saw how well an interesting storyline can pay off. Holly, let's see what happens when something just as interesting is executed not so well. The second match Holly and I will be discussing is the Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins Eye for an Eye match from the Extreme Rules Horror Show pay-per-view earlier this year. Holly has not seen this match, and I'm very excited to see her reactions. Without further ado, I think we're about to get into this match. Per usual, if you want the full experience, if we're friends in real life, send me a message. I'll let you borrow my sign-in info for the WWE Network, and you can watch the match. We'll be back in a little bit. to see what Holly has to say.
I'm excited.
And we are back. Holly, you look disturbed.
What did I just watch? And I've watched a lot of wrestling, and I have seen a lot of blood. That was something I've never seen before.
I mean, where should we even start? So, this video package, we learn about this rivalry between Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio, where Seth took it upon himself to force Rey's eye into the corner of the ring steps, causing him to go blind in one of his eyes. And as the weeks follow, this storyline just escalates and escalates to the point where both conceited men in this storyline agree to an eye for an eye match, where the stipulation is for one man to remove his opponent's eye.
That's absurd.
That is very absurd, and I can't even stop laughing every time I watch this match because the ring announcer is so serious during this match. Michael Cole and Corey Graves are so serious during this match, and not anyone seems confused or generally concerned. And it's just an amazing thing to watch.
Throughout the whole match, literally in my head, I was just saying, this is so cringy.
Before the match even starts, we see Seth Rollins' entrance. He's doing this awesome Monday Night Messiah gimmick. I'm glad he was able to go from the Shield to his gimmick as World Heavyweight Champion to being the Kingslayer, and now to this is just incredible. I freaking love Seth freaking Rollins.
Oh, me too. Even without seeing the whole entire storyline of the Messiah, I can just see from the video package and from the way that he entered, he is 100% in character. His facial expressions, the way that he walks, he is believing he is the Messiah, and it's perfect. It's wonderful. He can be these characters and portray them 100%. It's wonderful character work.
Not only is he a great ring technician, he's just such a great character. It's amazing. He's definitely become one of my favorites over the years.
Oh, I'm in 100% agreement with that as well.
I mean, we also saw Seth Rollins win the Money in the Bank briefcase, so
that was amazing.
It's hard to not love him. So Rey Mysterio doesn't even make his entrance. His music hits, but he comes in through the crowd, catching Rollins off guard.
I loved it. I thought it was the perfect way to start the match. And then they were explosive. It was back and forth, wrestling moves, going right into it. I thought that was great.
Here's the thing. Before we started watching this match, I talked about how an interesting storyline can go wrong. The ring work in this match is fantastic, 100%. But everything revolving around trying to remove your opponent's eye just further separates me from the drama in this match.
I'm in 100% agreement with that. Both Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio are fantastic in-ring technicians. They've hit every move. They tell a great in-ring story. But what took it away from me was kind of the announcers and constantly putting in, oh, he has to figure out how to gouge his eye out. And it was just campy and cringy. It didn't flow as well as a match with a very cohesive storyline.
You're right. I mean, this match is definite proof how much Michael Cole has declined over the years as an announcer. Like 20 minutes ago, we were praising his work.
100%.
Next, we see Rey pull a table and a toolbox out from underneath the ring. I always love it when we see a toolbox introduced into a wrestling match because you never know what they're going to pull out of that.
And it's also the same thing kind of with theaters. If you're going to introduce a prop, it's going to be used. So I also enjoy anytime they pull out the tables, kendo sticks, toolbox. It's great.
We did see that table used, but we didn't see him go through it.
I kind of wish we did. It would have had a much better impact if he broke the table versus just falling on a flat table.
Yeah. Rey and Seth, they continue to fight. One of the next big spots we see is Seth Rollins hitting his patented Falcon Arrow on the ring apron. I love how the ring apron has just become more of a essential place to create drama in your match because it's the hardest part of the ring, according to every commentator ever.
And they executed that flawlessly.
That they did. And, you know, throughout this entire match, I can't not smile every time one of them tries to rip the other's eye out. It's pulling me further and further away from the reality of this match, and I'm in love with it. I can't not laugh at it. They keep finding their way over to the steel steps throughout the match, and they keep teasing it. They tease it at least twice in this match. Next, Rollins brings a kendo stick into the ring and straight up tries to stab Rey in the eye with it.
The kendo stick was very interesting during this match. They used it a lot between just trying to stab them in the eye to breaking it in half to sticking it against the goalpost. It's very interesting. I didn't know exactly where they were going to go with it, but it was interesting.
So the next attempt at an eye removal we see is Rollins trying to stab Rey in the eye with the leg of a chair. Rey is on the ground, and Rollins is on top of him with a chair, trying to just stab his eye out.
It wasn't believable to me.
Again. Another great moment. I'm pretty sure we both laughed at this when Rollins picks up a pen and goes to stab Rey in the eye with it, and someone on commentary says, "Hey, that's my pen."
I loved it.
That was
probably the best commentary spot of the whole match, for me at least.
That was the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely the best commentary spot throughout the whole match. Another thing I want to bring up, this match doesn't have a live crowd. This match doesn't have the Thunderdome. And the lack of a crowd really, really took away from matches around this time before something was able to be done about giving these guys an audience to feed off of.
I really like the fact that they had an audience, whether it just be the wrestlers and the plexiglass and being able to just, wail on the plexiglass. I think if this match did not have that, it would have taken away from the story even more than it already was with just the premise of this match in general.
I think if this match was going to be quiet, it should have been more of a cinematic match like we've seen earlier this year.
I agree.
Yeah. Both men get back into the ring and just continue to dazzle me with beautiful ring work. And one of my favorite spots that Rey has really introduced into his arsenal lately, he slides out of the ring on his belly, hits his opponent with a sunset flip powerbomb, and specifically this one, it threw Rollins into the barricade.
It's beautiful.
I mean, when we were watching Rey Mysterio matches together, he was not doing this move, and I like that he continues to add more and more to his ring work.
Well, I think he's definitely one of the most classical technical wrestlers, and he has to keep reinventing himself, not only because of his size, but because he's been around so long.
I think CM Punk said in an interview recently he could return to wrestling any day and have a match with Rey Mysterio without even talking to him.
Oh, I'm sure. I believe it 100%.
Next, Rey breaks off a piece of the kendo stick and attempts to stab Rollins in the eye with it. Rey gets back into the ring. He hits a 619, And it brings us back to this staircase. Seth tries to drive Ray's eye into the corner of this staircase. Ray counters and hits Seth with his own finisher, the stomp.
I love the stomp, by the way. I think it is such an effective move to show like that they're inflicting pain on someone. So both Ray and Seth used it in this match, which it always just makes me cringe, but in a good way, because I know that it's so effective.
It used to make me cringe a little more when it was called the curb stomp.
Yes.
It's now Ray's turn, trying to force Rollins' eye into the corner of the ring steps, but Rollins counters with a low blow. This low blow specifically, I feel like really would have popped if there was a live crowd.
Oh, definitely.
Rollins regains control with a super kick, and as you said, he hit his own finisher, the stomp. And now it's Rollins again trying to force Ray's eye into the ring steps. And at this point, Ray has one hand here and one hand here, and like he can't put his hand over the corner of the ring steps to block his eye from being put into it. That it again just pulled me away from the reality of whatever universe this is.
I think because also this is a match where they have to damage someone's eye, it's going to be difficult to show because they have to have their hands over their eyes. It's smoke and mirrors. It's trying to portray that your eye is being taken out of its socket. And I know at the beginning of the match, I did not know how that they were going to do this effectively.
I was reading reports up until this pay-per-view at the time, and it's my understanding that they did have some sort of CGI extraction plan, but they wound up going in the direction of the next beat of our match, which is where Seth has Ray's eye in the corner of the ring steps. He pulls away for a second, almost looking like he was going to deliver another stomp. But he returns over to the ring steps, looks Ray in the eye, and realizes that he's won the match. So next, we see all these close-up shots on Ray's face, and for a split second, we get Ray's eye in between his eye socket and his glove for a split second. Holly, you mentioned you didn't even see it the first time. You had to rewatch it to see the eye.
Yeah, I had to slow that down and really look at it because I got so distracted from Seth Rollins puking.
Not only did we get a fake eye, we got fake throw up as well in this match.
I wish it was blood.
I wish it was blood too. Blood gets me so much more caught up in the drama than a fake eye and fake throw up. So to close this match, we see multiple officials come down to the ring. We see Dominic come out to the ring to check up on Ray. And he's brought out to the back as Rollins just looks disgusted. Maybe not with just what he saw, but with what he just did.
But he stayed in character till the end. And that's something I can appreciate.
That he did. I have one final note about this match. It's unnecessary. The ring work was fantastic. They should have just had a straight up match. But everything from using weapons on each other to trying to extract the other one's eye didn't draw me in as much as the storyline for the first match we saw.
I agree. I think the first match we watched had a great story from beginning to end with such a satisfying finish. I didn't feel like this match had a full, complete story. It didn't have layers, and it was just cringy at the end.
Yeah.
It didn't satisfy me at all.
It didn't satisfy you as a wrestling fan, or let alone a human who didn't necessarily need to see what you just saw.
Exactly. Both.
Yeah. Holly, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off today?
This was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that we're able to sit down and talk about some of these matches that we've been watching for years. And I enjoyed hanging out with you and all of you on YouTube. So thank you, Greg.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. To those of you still watching this, God bless you. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe. Check out my action figure videos. They're going to be up and running again soon. Thanks again to my friend Holly for being on the show. Finally, I don't want to be doing this forever. I want to get back to work. So stay safe, stay home. If you go out, wear a mask, don't be a dick, and maybe just support each other. Thanks again for watching. Take care.